First, I always like to say people that is learning Brazilian Portuguese, if they go to Portugal or talk to someone from Portugal and they don't understand everything, don't feel bad because even us, we had some hard time to understand actually, to be really honest. And there's, I would say two things just to compare. First is about like the present continuous, the way if you compare it to English, for example, in Brazil, we're doing the same way. For example, now we are talking. So in Brazil, we say nós estamos conversando, talking. In Portugal, they say nós estamos a conversar, which means we are about to talk. So it kind of feels they're talking about the future, right? They don't say this continuous the way we do in English as well. They say estou a conversar, estou a fazer, which means I'm about to talk, I'm about to do, right? They speak like this. And another thing, of course, the classic one is the pronunciation. So the thing is, in Brazil, we pronounce all the vowels as strong as possible, and in Portugal, it's as faster as possible, and maybe don't even pronounce it. Okay. For example, I'm going to give you another example from the word cholesterol. Okay, in Brazil we say colesterol, colesterol. In Portugal they say cholesterol, cholesterol.
Just running
So
away.
exactly, it's like in a rush. So basically, especially with the vowels, like it's pronounced as fast as possible, or maybe don't even pronounce it.
I never thought that the Latin American version of the language was gonna be the one that is the most easy to understand than the European version, because you always think like, oh, like Spanish from Spain is like the textbook one. You're learning, it's the textbook, and then when you go to Latin America, it's like all expressive and like you have to live there to kind of understand it. It sounds like the opposite, which is crazy to think about.
Like Brazilian Portuguese being the beginner friend.
The beginner friendly one, right? While the Portuguese is like the hard level one. That's great.
Yeah, it's like we pronounce every single letter. We pronounce everything. In Portugal, they don't. They speak as fast as possible, especially with the vowels. So that's what I'm saying. If you're learning Brazilian Portuguese, don't feel bad if you don't understand European Portuguese. Because even for us, I was in Portugal like in May and June. Sometimes I had to do, I mean, love Portugal, please, but like I had to do some lips reading to understand 100% what they're saying, actually.
Oh my gosh.
It's true. It's true.
That bad, huh? Oh god.
Do people actually often need to be told about those differences, or do you come across them naturally in class, or isn't it a big topic at all?
I would say depends. Generally, it's not a topic, actually, to be honest, because the like almost 90% of Portuguese speakers in the world are Brazilians nowadays. So it's not like a main topic. But I had some students, I got some students before they've been learning Brazilian Portuguese, and once they got in they go to Portugal, they was like, wow, sounds like a completely different language. So yes, some people they have to be true before because they don't know, and also because the quantity of like media, not only social media, but of TV, music, everything coming from Brazil, it's a way bigger, it's massive compared what comes from Portugal. So people they learn Brazilian, they learn Portuguese in most of the time, 90% of the time, they go learn Brazilian. So, except for the ones that go travel, go visit Portugals, but most of them, they don't even know. They never been in touch with European Portuguese.
I mean, can you tell? Like again, like you said, there's so much Brazilian content out there. The country is so much
Yeah.
larger than.
Like the population in Portugal, the whole country is smaller than the city of São Paulo, in São Paulo. So, yeah. There's like 11 million people in Portugal, and in São Paulo, there's like over 18 million. So, wow, the quantity, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now I can definitely see the disparity.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting because now you're doing like some little fun facts about Brazil. But one thing that you mentioned a little bit at the beginning of the episode that I would love to learn more about is some tools. Like, what are some impactful tools or techniques that help you teaching better?
I don't know if it's exactly like tools, but one thing that helps me a lot, it's I be learning actually how big is the cultural impact of Brazil as like I don't know if it's like as a leader or like the biggest Portuguese speaker country. So this is a tool that I use a lot actually, and also like music, the news, and the important like economic, political, cultural importance for Brazil. But I would say music would be the strongest one, except of course my classes, my files, all the document that I had. The music and the news helps a lot.
Yeah, I heard that music is a very popular method of teaching languages. You know, you all the repetition, you get to learn about some cultural elements as well. You know, when there's like a reference to something that happens, or And it's also usually, since the singer is a lot more like he has to re-record it, it's also a lot clearer. I don't think there's a lot of slurriness or accents going on when singing. So I think it's a very popular method, and a lot of people are using it for way more than Portuguese, also for Japanese or for French,
Yes.
German,
It's-
everywhere.
Especially like in the last couple of years, I would say, I think like the Brazilian pop music is getting bigger. There's like a whole industry growing. So people are getting more interested about I would say especially in the last 10, 5 years. So yeah, and this has attracted a lot of attention, attracted a lot of attention, especially from the young generation.
How do you do this? How do you use the music and the culture so that the language sticks better?
Yeah, like I said, this is my method. I love connecting language with the culture, because I think if you learn it, if you understand, if you get the lifestyle of the people, you're gonna get to learn the important vocabulary. You know what is important, how to talk to people, how to interact with them. So I would say it's impossible to not connect culture and language, because language is always changing. Right? It's always changing. People go creating new slangs. New things are always, new things are always, what's the verb? Always coming. There's new things all the time. And there's a sentence that I like to say: learning language and not being interesting about the cultures, like going to the beach and hiding from the sun. Like it's impossible. Like how do you learn a language you don't understand what's going on in the country? You don't understand at least a little bit of the geography and the culture and the society. Like it doesn't work. So I always like to mention an example. There's a student of mine. He was in the south of Brazil, it's a different lifestyle. And then he learned a lot of vocabulary. And then a year later, he went to the northeast, the state of Bahia. And the way he was speaking to people, everybody was like, where did you learn Portuguese? And the person, in the south Brazil. And the people was like, okay, they're kind of like acting like, oh, that's kind of sounds weird for me. And it was like, wow, that's insane, because it's in the same country. Right, so that's why it's so important. If you go to a place, learn the culture, understand people, how is the society, music, the race, how things works, because it's impossible to not connect both, in my opinion.
It takes me back to the time where people from certain regions of Italy do not understand people from the top or the bottom part of Italy. So I take me back. The cultures can be very different, even like a small amount of kilometers. And imagine with Brazil being so massive, like the differences are gonna be absolutely gigantic, I would assume. But like one thing that I think it could be a little bit hard, especially when Brazil is such a big country with such a like diverse set of culture, is people not understanding a little bit of like things like humor or idioms. So how do you handle explaining Brazilian humor, idioms, or slang to students that are from completely different parts of the world or completely different cultures?
First, it's important to get to know if the person is like Eastern or Western. This is extremely important, because I can already get the point of view and the way they see Brazil. Second, one very important thing I like to tell people, I would say politically, Brazilians, we are Latinos, but culturally, not really. We are very isolated. Culturally, we have like our own vibe, our own language. Not because like we don't like it, our neighbors. That's not the point. It's because if you compare the proportion, like how big Brazil in the quantity, the population, it's a way bigger than all of our neighbors. So the countries in Latin America, they do connect to each other. They share the same language. They share a very similar culture. But we just stay in our own vibe. We just stay in our own world. So I always like to tell people, big countries like the States or Russia or China or Brazil, it's not a country, it's like a whole universe. It's like a Brazilian universe, because we talk about the other states and the other regions as kind of like subcultures, the way Latin America talk about like different countries, like the Spanish speakers. So yeah, I would say understand this point of view that we are very unique and very isolated culturally. So if you do want to understand, if you want to learn the language, of course, you have to understand this.
Yeah, and that's very interesting to point out, because like so many countries can tell themselves, oh, we're like very different if you go from one place to another. But again, I think most people don't understand the scale of Brazil. I think it's one of the things that every time, at least in the European, when I talk to people about Brazil on my own place, they treat it just like, oh, it's another Latin country, us American country. It's like technically yes, but like, bro, have you seen the rest of Latin America? This guy's huge. Like,
Even if sorry to but even if you go ask like people on the street Brazilians, like you consider yourself Latino, I'm pretty sure a lot of them they'll say no, I just consider like Brazilian. But like I said, not like in a mean way, not because we don't like them. It's just because we don't feel a lot of connection with our neighbors.
yeah, I don't think it necessarily has to be bad. It's just simply people like have a very interesting way of how their community has been built, and everybody has their own methods. I wouldn't assume that every European be like, oh, I'm European. It's like, no, I'm Finnish, or I am British, or I am Spanish.
Yeah,
Like-
absolutely. Yeah.
Like, I think Europe can really relate to that sort of isolation. One thing that also you said that like way back we said like, oh, like the city of São Paulo has the entire population of Portugal. But one thing that I always like to ask guests that are very experts in their country is interesting, fun city, fun facts. So are there any fun or surprising facts about Portuguese that always grab your students' attention outside of the whole city thing? So I already talked about that one.
One thing is a very fun fact, actually, which is always funny when I go explain this kind of stuff on my classes. It's about the quantity of double meaning words and expressions. I would say Portuguese, we are known for having a kind of like dirty mind. So there's a lot of stuff that has like a lot of double meaning. There's a lot of stuff that has a kind of like a double meaning. So it puts people like in a awkward, like embarrassed situation sometimes.